Hey everybody, we are live. I'm Michelle Gempema, and I have with me tonight Chris Palmieri.
Chris
And I
Palmieri.
have to tell you, yep, that John Abaticola had some technical issues and had to reboot his computer. So you guys are stuck with us for a little bit without our main host. This could be chaos. So here we are. Um, but this is good because the whole topic for tonight came from Chris, actually. It's kind of all his fault. I'll just put the blame on him right now.
In an indirect way, evidently, yes.
Yeah, in a very indirect way. Um, I was in Nebraska. You guys know that I take care of my grandma and we were moving her. And so I was up in Nebraska and I have a friend who lives up there named Matt. And he messaged me and he said, "Hey, I need you to come by my house and pick up a package, a secret package, and I need you to deliver it to Greeley and get it photographed." And I'm like, "Ooh, this sounds like quite the operation." And so, of course, I'm like, "I'm in." So I went over to Matt's house and I picked up these cars. I don't know if you can see that. They're the tangent cars. And it's funny because when he handed them to me, just the day before, I had listened to A Modeler's Life. I think it was a Fans of A Modeler's Life. And somewhere in there was this little tiny snippet about, well, Chris Palmieri is doing these tangent cars and they're freelance and da-da. And I remember going, I wonder what freelance means. Because first of all, I didn't really know what that meant.
Sure.
So how did these cars get to Matt?
Well, similar to the way he reached out to you, he reached out to me in short order and said, "I'm going to Denver to pick up my family at the airport. I'd like to photograph these cars on the layout. Can you send them to me quickly?" This was like 3 days before he was going to go down there. So I sent them to him expecting that, he was going to take care of it and take the pictures. And I found out after the fact that he wasn't able to do that in person
That's
and
right.
had you meet him and pick them up. So that was not my intention for it to end up with those cars in your hands in that manner. But
I'm
thank you
really
very much.
glad it happened. I know exactly because Matt was coming by the museum because he had to drop his
Mm-hmm.
wife at the airport and her flight got changed. But it must have been like a surprise because he likes
Yeah,
to surprise me. So anyway, so I
evidently.
ended up with
Well, I
these.
was surprised as well.
So I ended up with these cars.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a Copper State Railway, and the other is Kansas Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
And John Crisanti came over and photographed them on our layout one day, and it was really fun to see them out. And they're really nice cars. And of course, I'm like, well, I'll just put them on my desk until this guy Chris, that I don't really know very well, actually contacts me because maybe he'll forget and I'll just keep them. Just kidding. But it did make me think about, this is a product that is not a prototype based product. It's, the cars are, but the rail line isn't. It's freelance.
Correct.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit about why you chose to make these cars and what your company is?
Well, I have been a freelance model railroader for a long time. I've been exposed to it all my life. Actually, I grew up in New Orleans, and there's a Crescent City Model Railroad Club in New Orleans. I think one or
I
two of
know
their
that
members have
one.
been on this show
Yeah.
once or twice. So at a very young age, I had that experience. But I grew up being a Santa Fe modeler primarily, and just love the Santa Fe, everything about it. We did not have the Santa Fe in New Orleans, so I would go on vacations in the summer and go to the Santa Fe Modelers Organization conventions in Topeka or Bakersfield or wherever they were, and that was a big deal. And that's what I wanted to model. Well, I ended up working for the BNSF and ended up as an assistant train master in Fresno, California in 2000, which is very much like working for the Santa Fe. And
Okay.
suddenly I would come home after, doing that for 12, 13 hours in a row, and I would look at these locomotives that I had modeled or were in a condition of being modeled, and it just lost its appeal. And I put all that on the shelf, moved like 7 times, and it just lost its luster for me. So at some point, I decided I wanted to get back into the hobby, kind of remind me why I enjoyed railroading. And I had friends that were doing the freelance thing, and I thought, I'm going to get back into it, but I'm going to do it as a freelance modeler. And it's just been, I get to write my own script, and do things my way, and paint the picture that I'd like to paint. So that's what I've done. Probably got back into it about 7.5 years ago.
So it's sort of relighted your creativity.
Correct. It's been, relaxing in therapy for me, and it's different to do something that isn't exactly what you deal with professionally. So
Yeah, so let's tell the viewers what your company is, because it's kind of half started but not officially kicked off. So let's talk about it.
I decided at the very beginning of this year, I wanted to test the water. So the idea came from, I'm on a number of Facebook groups, member of, that are primarily just freelance based modelers. So a lot of members who have their own railroads or collect freelance models. And I'm watching people come out with Accurel custom runs, and they'll sell out in a day. There's a fellow named Patrick Harris that he'll announce his cars, and in a day or two, an entire run of it. Granted, they're only 48 or 72 or 100 cars, but they're gone in a day. And I'm thinking, and I was buying them, and those are not knocking Accurel, but they're about the only Accurel cars I was buying. And I would think to myself, I'd like to have higher quality freelance models for my collection, And I watched a bunch of them sell out very quickly in December, and I thought, that's going to be my New Year's resolution. I'm gonna start a company, and I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna commission higher end models. And I reached out to a number of different companies, and I reached out to Dave Lell back at Tangent, and I said, here's what I want to do. Is this the kind of, do you take on orders like this? And by the way, if you do, I'd really like to start with your PS 4750 covered hopper and the 86-foot boxcar that you just came out with. And very enthusiastically, very quickly, he replied, absolutely, we do it. Here's the terms. Here's how it works. And you're in luck, because both of these cars are in rotation to be ordered this year. But you've got to move fast, because I'm going to order the 4750s by the end of February, is what he wanted to do. And this is the beginning of January. I'm having this conversation. So I respond well to deadlines. And in weeks, I set up the company. I called it homeshops.net, a play on the home shop for repair, do not load sticker we've all seen. As a freelance modeler, we all have our own shop in our room, in our house somewhere. So I think that everybody can associate the name Home Shops with their own railroad. And placed an order for 4750s, 7 freelance road names. And it's a long turnaround. From the time the factory gets the order, it's roughly 9 to 12 months, before it comes back. So I got the order in, met the deadline, and those are just fantastic guys to work with. So now I've got time to set up the company and get things going. And I thought, it's going to be a disservice if the first time people get to see these cars is when they actually show up from the factory. So I've decided, I ordered a bunch of undecorated 4750s from Dave and have painted up about 20 of them so far in most of these schemes. And I'm sending them around to different railroads to be photographed, to create some media, some stock photos that will be shared on social media more and more as it comes closer to the arrival time. And one of the railroads that is being done is the Copper State Railroad. This is where Matt comes in. I was just going to do 6 road names, and Matt found out what I was doing, and he had kind of taken over the Copper State Railroad from the gentleman that created it, a fellow by the name of Brian Bannon. He goes, what do you think about a Copper State car? How's about a Copper State car? You should have one. And he wore me down, and I'll tell you, I'm very, very glad that car is part of the mix. So that's the connection that led us to you. So I'm calling these cars that I've painted in advance the Ambassador Fleet, is what I'm calling, because it's announcing to everybody these railroads and the new company Home Shops. And pretty excited. It's been very well received by everybody I've reached out to so far. So this is kind of a fun new adventure.
I think your ambassador fleet has been fun. I have had a lot of fun just being a part of these, and I almost want to secretly mail. If you didn't need them back, I'd probably secretly mail them to the next person. I don't know if you remember in the 70s and 80s, those chain letter things where you'd mail one to the next person. Yeah, I'd surprise somebody and be photograph it, and then you have to mail it to someone else.
Well, and it's kind of fun to watch these cars because their paths are taking off kind of a life of their own. And there's 18 of them right now, and they're on various layouts. And we are having here in Fort Worth our very first RPM meet in 2 weekends from now. And I hadn't really thought about participating in it, but I was talked into it very recently, and it occurred to me, all my cars are out. So I just sent you an SOS and a couple of other people, and I'm hoping that I get enough of them back to have some. I am going to have a table there. But these cars are going to be in continuous motion for months. There's 3 cars that I sent to a friend of mine in the Washington area, and he just there's a model railroad there. They modeled the Union Railroad, and they posed for some photos on that railroad very recently, and they were sent directly to Dave Abeles and his Onondaga cutoff, and they're there right now being photographed. And I don't think I'll get those ones back, so those might go directly to another railroad. But after the show, I'll be launching cars, and if you're interested, maybe some different road names, we'll host. I'll send some more your way. I appreciate that.
Okay, so we're getting asked what your web page is.
The website for this company is www.homeshops.net. It's under construction right now, so there's a construction page, but you can go there and sign up now at the bottom for what I'm calling general shop bulletins. That's how everybody will receive announcements and whatnot. And for my own proto freelance railroad, I call it the Meridian Speedway. I've got a website for that if people want to look at it, and it's www.meridianspeedway.net.
And that's your railroad, Meridian Speedway?
It's the nickname I call it. The railroads are called the Natchez Trace and Orient and the Texas and Great Northern, and it's loosely based on what was the Mid-South that became the KCS's Meridian Speedway. Now, I grew up in Louisiana, and I watched that railroad develop into what it is, and I've kind of used it as the basis for the freelance railroad that I have created.
Okay. So one thing about freelance I'm learning is that they're often loosely based on a real one.
Yes, and that's why you'll often hear the term proto freelance.
Proto freelance, okay.
So if you think about it, no model railroad is exactly like the prototype. They are, number one, they're smaller, right? Number two, the runs are from here to there. So there is some compression and artistic license that takes place even with the most faithful prototype model. And as people take more liberties, artistic license with the variables, and stray from the prototype, it leans more towards what we call freelance. And I don't know who coined the term, who coined proto freelance, and I think the distinction between prototype and freelance is different for different people based on the way they see things, right? So some people model a railroad, a prototype railroad, but they put it in a different location where it never went because that's what they want to do. So it might be a Norfolk Southern railroad in a setting where the Norfolk Southern never went, and that would be, some would consider that proto freelance because the equipment, they're modeling equipment that really exists, but it's their own spin on the story. So and on these Facebook groups, I've learned that there's a lot of people that are doing it more than I would have thought otherwise.
We always talk about it's your railroad, you can do what you want, but this is a way to categorize it, at least so you can have conversations with people, and it gives us vocabulary, like this is freelance, this is proto freelance, and this is prototype. So I can instantly kind of have an idea of what the layout's going to be before I get there. So that's good. I like that. And then we could have Michelle's crazy railroad over here, but I have all the I just bought a Star Wars train off of eBay and brought it in, and the guys were like, "Why did you buy this?" Well, we have a Star Wars event, so it makes sense. But yeah, I would have crazy stuff all over the place. So John, you're still freezing. We'll stop real quick and
I am.
Yeah, your picture's still frozen.
Oh, because on my picture.
Well, we can hear you though.
Okay. Well, if you can hear me, I'll pipe in sometimes. I really don't know what's going on. I did have some problems recently with my router, and I'm afraid if I unplug it to reset it, that it'll make the stream go away. So I'm just gonna let it. I'm just gonna let it run.
Oh, the audio is good.
Because I don't know what will happen.
Yeah, your audio is really good. It's just that your video is.
Why don't I just make myself look better and just turn off my camera?
That one's great because the circle, like when you talk, it's like a speaker.
It's fluctuating, isn't it? Like the circle vibrates. So, sorry, I missed some of the beginning because I was having my problems here. But I wanted to ask you, Chris, since I missed it. So if you answered this, it'll be a stupid question. But so you're starting. Well, that's debatable. You haven't met me yet.
Or me.
Right. With me and Michelle here, there's going to be some stupid questions. No,
fair enough.
Right. So I heard that you went with Tangent, which is a great call. They make great models, but I didn't hear. Are you starting off with just a plain car and then you custom decal it, or what was the story with how the cars get customized?
No, the cars I ordered from Tangent, I placed an order with Tangent, and they're going to be factory painted in 7 freelance railroads. I reached out to the owners of a number of railroads and told them what I wanted to do. Would you like to participate in it? And so we worked with them and Tangent and did factory Tangent artwork, and it's at the factory. And the cars that are kind of floating around now, mostly behind the scenes, till Michelle decided 3 hours ago to go public with this. Since there's such a long turnaround, 9 months to a year before we go from concept to actually factory produced cars in our hands, I decided to custom paint most of them myself, cars in these 7 road names, and I'm sending them around to various hosts. The farthest one went to Denmark. Pelle Soberg has won the Kansas Pacific Cars Like You, which he very quickly weathered amazingly. And I've got some fantastic photographs from him. So there's some custom cars floating around to, I want to make sure that the first time people see these cars and these railroads and these road names isn't when the cars actually arrive. So that's the cars that Michelle has right now in her possession, are a couple of those custom painted cars for that purpose.
That's really cool. And you
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, you posted pictures, Michelle, on Facebook. I'll have to look at that.
No, this is the world premiere, and Chris agreed to let me talk about it. So it's right here.
Yeah, so we've got the RPM meet, and I send out an SOS to Michelle. Hey, can you send me some? And she sent me a note like 2-3 hours ago. Hey, by the way, can you log on to this show? So here we are, which is just fun. Thank you very much.
I gave him a good almost 3 hours notice to come on the show tonight and talk about it.
So ask away, ask questions. I reached out to a fellow by the name of Joe Loggins. He has the Arkansas Valley as his freelance railroad, and I've known him since the 80s. He was in New Orleans at that time, and it actually had a presence on the Crescent City Model Railroad Club. And he's gained a little traction and gained some fan base. He's got his own Facebook page for the Arkansas Valley. If you search it, you'll find it. So I reached out to him and said, hey, would you mind, or would you be interested? And he was like, you're kidding me. You mean at the end of this I can have Tangent painted cars for the Arkansas Valley? And I said, that's kind of the picture. And the other road names I reached out to, Anthony Lorch is in San Antonio. He's got this Kansas Pacific concept that he and a fellow named Hank Stevens came up with. Correct. And feel free to take it out if you wish.
Can I take it out? I'm afraid to touch it. I didn't want to take it out of the box without asking.
Well, I expect in your profession by now you can take a hopper car out of a box. I have faith.
Okay, all right. I'll take the hopper car out of the box. These boxes are nice the way they open. Okay.
And so it was go ahead.
You haven't been eating pizza, Michelle. You don't want to get fingerprints on it.
I know I'm afraid to touch anything. I try not to touch things unless it's
a number of people that I sent cars to, one of the first things they said was, hey, can I weather them? So maybe pizza sauce is Michelle's special technique for weathering. I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Right.
With me, it would be queso.
I saw Pelle Soberg's picture of that same car. So cool. Okay. I understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but now
I'm going to plot the other
question, though, another question, Chris, if it's okay.
Sure.
So, if I understand correctly, you got or created or got the owners of the freelance railroads their artwork, and they're going to pad print those in the factory. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. A lot of these individuals already had some artwork, vector style for logos and such existing for decals that they already had. And we kind of collaborated with Matthew Elkley at Circus City to adopt those existing artwork to the 4750 decals I've used. And we provided that existing artwork to Tangent, and a lot of back and forth between the road owners and myself and Tangent to iron out all the details for the cars that are going to be, that Tangent artwork went to the factory, and those cars will be factory painted.
So there's the Copper State one. So is this Matt's this is Matt's railroad then?
Yes, that's the one that Matt is involved with. The Copper State Railroad railway was created by a fellow named Brian Banna. He lives in Arizona, and he developed a fan base, did some really neat things with it, and he kind of moved on to other things. And you'll have to have Matt on to interview him
About the story of it. Okay.
About how the ownership was transferred. But somehow Matt went to Brian and said, "Hey, I would like to pick up where you left off with the Copper State Railroad," and he kind of assumed ownership of it. Cool. If there is such a thing. So I worked directly with Matt, but there was a lot of communication between Matt and Brian Bana for the artwork that went into these cars. And actually, Brian did the CAD artwork, if you will, for the decals that are on the car that you are holding right now.
So are you going to make the decals available also?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. So a lot of them, a lot of freelance owners, and to your point earlier about how most people don't have access to freelance equipment, a lot of freelance road owners want to really control what their equipment looks like. And a lot of people, fear that if their freelance decals are floating around 10 years
like
from
your
now,
baby.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
it's your art.
Some people, right? So we're going to keep that kind of close for now, I believe, and it's up to the road owners as to whether or not they want that to be available. But for the purpose of these cars, they're all on board with this artwork development.
See, and I thought, thinking about freelance, I don't think I could ever do it because the barrier for me would be creating all of my own cars, all of the artwork, doing that decal work, making it for the locomotives, cars, all the different types of maintenance away, like all the different things I would have to create perfectly. Now, if it could be hand painted and it had trees and bunnies and stuff, I'd be fine. But this stuff has to be good.
Well, and there's a lot of people up there that help. Most of the people listening probably are familiar with Matthew Welke and Circus City Decals. And he's actually right now working on our second run is going to be the 86-foot boxcar. And I told you I had to paint a car before the show. I'm painting one up we're going to do a Crescent Lines 86-foot boxcar in our second run. And he sent me a couple emails today with where he's at with the artwork and the decals currently. And hopefully we'll put this together and have a car painted up for the Red River RPM next Saturday. So, to your point, it's very intimidating to do everything by yourself, but with social media and reaching out to people like Matthew Welke, you can give them a little direction and they can plug in their expertise and give you back something that's more than what you expected.
So when you do someone's line like this, like the Copper State, I imagine Matt has placed an order for some of that first order you have coming in. But other people can then own this, but he can be guaranteed that the art is the way he wants it to be.
Correct.
So it's a win-win then.
I mean, that doesn't mean somebody's not going to, buy one and modify it or alter it or even strip it and paint it as whatever. But yeah. So at least he knows people that are going to have a Copper State car. It's going to look like what they think it should look like.
Okay, I think it's really interesting. I think it's cool that you stepped out and just did your own company.
Well, every time I would watch these AccuRail runs sell out in a day, and the little voice in my head would say, the market's there. I want the cars, and I'll bet you there's enough other people that would like to have higher quality cars. And, Tangent was the first manufacturer that responded. There's lots of other manufacturers, as this, if I haven't made a mistake and I'm not stuck with a very large number of 4750s for a long time, I would like to roll this into other projects with other manufacturers. There's lots of cars that I would like to do that Tangent just doesn't offer. But that's the starting point. And it's just been a fantastic partner so far.
Well, it's nice to work with one of the smaller manufacturers like that, Yeah. We have Intermountain in Colorado that we've done some custom orders with for the museum. We ordered some, I guess that's free. Our layout is more, it's sort of prototype, but there's a lot of freelance things about it. So I don't know what you'd classify us as. The railroad was
a toggle somewhere between prototype and freelance. Yeah.
Exactly. Because there's a lot of places Dave's like, it's my railroad. Yeah. So I don't know. I have a volunteer at the museum right now. He's a young guy. He owns a brewery, and he's been trying to build a train with his brewery and the products he would need brought in on rail. And he's like, to get someone to make 40 cars for me is really hard because one, it's expensive, and two, they don't want to do it. They don't want to custom make 40 cars for him. He's having a hard time finding someone to do that.
Right.
So That's another
Well,
kind of barrier.
yeah, I mean, because right now, if you want freelance equipment for a railroad that exists, they're exactly right. You have to either say, hey, I know you've got a lot of things you want to do for yourself, but do you mind? I don't, I'll pay you, but will you paint some for me? And most people don't have the time to wedge into their own schedules for that. Or you need to invest time and work and get the decals made and do it yourself with permission, and that's also time consuming. And it may not be factory perfect. So not that there's anything wrong with custom paint. I'm having a lot of fun with the Ambassador fleet cars that I painted. I don't shy from it, but some of the railroads, two of the 7 railroads are my own. I
Okay.
figured, if I am wrong, I at least want to be stuck with some of my own grain trains if they don't sell. But so having names written out perfectly on rib side hopper cars where the letters are all even, it takes a lot of time to get them to line up exactly right, and to be able
Right.
to
It's
have these coming,
right.
it's a
It's a lot
major
of
time
work.
save. Yeah, so
Right. It's a lot of work. And when you want to make, a 100-car train,
mhm.
you're doing
It's a
that
lot of
100
time.
times.
Sure.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I would screw up probably 50% of them. So we're having some questions about finding decal makers. So the decals that you're using right now, they were made by Tangent Free. They were made by someone else.
Correct. Most of them are done by Matthew Welke and Circus City Decals.
Okay.
And just do a
Yeah.
search for Circus City. The Copper State car is a combination of it's a fellow named William Brillinger in Canada, and I believe it's Precision Design Models, I think is the name of the company. But he did those with the exception of that copper logo on the car. And that copper logo is very hard to do. Most of the decal manufacturers today cannot do a metallic copper color. And the original
okay.
Brian Bana had, with his Copper State Railway, had Microscale do a very large set of decals, and that had the copper logo on it. Microscale can do it, but they've been kind of AWOL lately. There's some we have reached out to them and just have not heard back. We'd like to get some more copper decals. So that Copper State Railway car that you have is a combination of the new decals.
This one sits under it. I can't read.
Hey, John, you're not muted.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to interrupt. We have someone that's trying to call in.
Okay.
And I don't know what's going on over here. I had to use the connection to my Wi-Fi, which is bad. You if you're doing streaming, you want to be connected with a hardwired connection, and it just isn't working. I don't know why.
I'm so sorry, John. It's not your day.
Yeah. So I asked you that really great question, Chris, and then when you started
any of it.
Yeah, when you started to answer, it pooped out on us. So I heard nothing. So if it's okay with you guys, can I bring Cliff up and see?
Sure.
Okay, let me bring him up here. Hopefully he'll have something more intelligent than I do to say. Here we go. Cliff, take it away. How you doing, man? Oh, don't forget to unmute yourself, though.
Hi. Hey,
Hello.
Michelle. Hey, Cliff Linton. How you doing?
Not bad. How are you?
Good. Out in the California version of a basement here, working on the old layout. But anyway, very interesting conversation about custom decals. I kind of considered it, but I went for a mainstream railroad, the B&O, myself.
Okay, but you actually thought about doing freelance first, but there was a barrier to getting the products you needed.
Actually, it was not an issue of. It was actually what I was trying to do was to recreate the decals for what was an obscure prototype, and it was the Kyle Railroad before it was acquired by Genesee in Wyoming. They had a really cool red, white, and blue logo that they used for hopper cars, and they had locomotives, and I couldn't figure out how to do it, and I was going to have to figure out because it had multiple ink layers and the registration was going to be super, super difficult.
I will tell you, Mr. Welke at Circuit City could probably have them back to you in 48 hours from when you send him a picture. He's that quick.
Wow.
I don't know how he does it.
Okay.
And then maybe this short line can run again. I love short lines. I think the prototype short lines are cool. But yeah, they're hard to model. The Great Western Railway that runs here in Colorado, nobody makes that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd love to. I'd love to model that, but I can't. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
And
So-
like in the old days, you had to go to microscale, and the runs were like 250 or 500 sheets. Like you can buy one sheet from Circuit City, so you don't have to invest that kind of money to get a decal done for a very limited number of models you might want to do.
Now that's a huge deal. Like, so at the museum, when a volunteer hits 3,000 hours, they get their name on an OC&E boxcar. Their name and like the date becomes the car number. And they get one and we keep one for the layout. Well, to order the decals with their names on them, I had to order 500. So I have all these decals of these people's names. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I should start pranking them and like putting them on everything.
Well, and it's interesting you mentioned that, putting the names on it. This the Crescent Lines boxcar we're doing. The Crescent Lines has been around for over 60 years. And there have been a lot of members that have come and gone. And when I reached out to the Crescent Lines, the Crescent City Model Railroad Club, and said, hey, what do you think about me doing a Crescent Lines car for the second run, 86-foot boxcar? They were excited about it. And I said, what do you think? Have you seen the Cryotrans reefers? They're running around today, and all of them on the door have a name of a place, a unique name. What do you think about having this? We call it the Founders Fleet. And every car is named after a founding member of the Crescent Lines over the years, or an important member. And we've actually got a list of 53 names. And the car series, these cars are all going to be named after founding members of the Crescent Lines. And I've got a separate decal sheet. One decal sheet is going to have all of the numbers, the large numbers for the sides of the cars and the small numbers for the ends of the cars, and 2 copies of each name. So I'll have one sheet of decals with everybody's name on it, which is something you can do without having to buy lots of decal sheets for just one name that you need.
And I'm going to have to do it because I just finished the last name. We guessed what volunteers are going to be here for 3,000 hours. And now we've had so many. I think I have 23 cars right now.
Yeah.
23 volunteers hit 3,000 hours, and we've got more coming. And so I'm going to have to reorder.
Yeah.
I have to order more box cars too. So Cliff, so you switched to prototype B&O, is that what you said? Even though you're in California?
Yes.
That's okay.
I'm originally from Chicago, and this goes back into the 1990s when I acquired one of those Kato Atlas GP35s, and it ran wonderfully. And over time, I've gotten increasingly interested in Chicago Beltline operations, and so I'm doing the B&O CT, which is the interswitching line in Chicago. Not really too active anymore because they lost most of their customer base. Okay.
Well, at least you know why you like them and what you want to do. I think some people don't often even get to that point of what they want to do, but that's great.
Yeah.
It's all trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even Chris, you said you were prototype Santa Fe, and then you decided that you wanted to change. And I've invited somebody, hopefully he'll get on a little bit later, who's changed his mind 3 times on his own, freelance and then back to prototype. So if Walker calls in, we'll ask his story too. So I'd be curious for our viewers.
My internet
how many
keeps changing its mind too.
John, you're here and you're moving. No, you're gone.
And there you go.
Yeah, my internet keeps changing its mind too. Hey guys, can you keep this going? I'm going to try something else. It was something that I wanted to do as a last resort, but I'm going to go do it. It may take me about 5 minutes to get back. Okay. I almost don't even feel like telling you because you're doing so well without me having a great conversation. So I'll be back. Okay.
John, just sit back and relax. We're going to take care of all the heavy lifting for you.
Okay.
I actually said
Is
that to John today. He's been so busy with the national convention. I'm like, well, it's about time I pull my own weight around here and actually come up with some stuff for you.
I was just laughing. I thought that was a great idea. I'll be right back, or well,
Okay.
I'll be back as soon as I can. We'll see how this goes. Thanks.
Okay. All right.
All right.
We'll
Thanks.
see ya.
Clifton, I think the CSX has decided to model the B&O again with their business cars being painted B&O now.
Isn't that really interesting?
Mm-hmm.
I saw a locomotive painted up in the old colors, and yeah, I mean, I know the guy who painted the B&O CT. I guess you could call it shoving car that they down in the south side of Chicago, and I guess they have gone back and re-embraced their roots.
That's interesting. So,
Yeah.
because they acquired the B&O then, CSX. I don't know my Eastern railroads. You guys got to help me with that.
The B&O is one of the predecessor railroads that through merger after merger after
Right.
merger rolled into what is the CSX. The CSX didn't necessarily acquire it, but
So,
they've just painted their
they're
business car fleet in a B&O scheme. So the
That's
CSX
neat.
is proto-freelancing their business cars.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. They are proto freelancing because they're making up the paint scheme, right? It's not an exact to
It's
the past.
pretty close. It's pretty close.
Okay. So could it be designated as prototype or is it still proto freelance?
Yeah, I guess they're a real railroad, so it's prototype. But
It becomes
3 years
prototype
ago,
because they're a real railroad.
if somebody modeled a B&O F40, that would be a freelance thing until the CSX just did it.
There you go. That's so funny. I would love to build, like if I were to make a layout, and actually it's funny because I actually did this. This is true. I wanted to have an in-scale layout that I could take to shows that Michelle could carry, because there's always this Michelle has to move it on her own factor in everything. And so I can't do like these huge things. I wanted an in-scale I could take to the Rocky Mountain Train Show or wherever I'm going, or to a school, because I go to a lot of kids stuff. And I wanted it to be the Great Western. And some of the volunteers at the museum actually custom painted Great Western locomotives for me as a gift. And then they also made me a miniature Colorado Model Railroad Museum. So and I have a little in scale, it's a little 2x6, I think. It's kind of longer, and I'm supposed to be working on right now, but it's really hot out in the warehouse. But it will have our museum and Great Western on it. So I guess I could say it's prototype, but it's hard to find. So we had to freelance make it. I don't know. So what is that? What do you call that? That's just prototype modeling then.
You custom painted prototype models.
So I custom prototype. Okay. All right. There's so many definitions in this hobby.
Yeah.
But that's good to know. Yeah. And I think it'll be neat because kids can see these in real life today. They're still operating in our region as a short line. So I liked that. I wanted it to be real like that. So prototype. I'm still not freelance. That's sad. But I did buy a freelance. Hopefully Walker will come on later on. I bought a freelance railroad from a friend who was selling it, and I loved his work. And I thought that would be really fun to have doing our T-track modules with kids if we had a short line that's all the cars and the locomotives all match. So I bought all of his rolling stock from him and his locomotives. So I own a freelance. I just didn't build it.
What is it called again?
Big Turn in Southern. So if you ever follow Walker Embry, he built this. First he did it HO scale, then he did it in N scale and built an amazing layout, and then got bored with that, tore it all down, sold everything, and now he's coming back in. He's here. He's lurking. He just lurked in. Walker, you need to call in when John comes back. Hit the link and call in so John can let you come in so you could tell us about it. We'll stop talking about it so he can talk about it. Because it's cool. And so after I did this thing with you, Chris, and then knowing my history with Walker, that's where tonight's topic came from. Is just all this is in Michelle's head, freelance, and what is all this all about? And I think more and more modelers will go freelance if there's product available, like what you're doing.
I think so. Excuse me. Most club layouts are a freelance railroad or have a freelance railroad associated with it, and I think the equipment on those layouts is limited to what people have custom painted. And I think having more and more available factory painted freelance equipment will populate those railroads, and people will see them and hopefully maybe be inspired or less intimidated to freelance on their own as they see more and more available stuff.
Intimidated is the word I think that applies to me about
It can be
regarding this.
intimidating.
Very intimidating. Yeah. We have a question in the chat, so I'll just read it because Sydney's not here either to pop it up for us. It says, Robert M. Martineau, I'm probably going to script the last name, can do patchwork over the prototype and put your name and number on it, and then you can call it freelance. And I guess that's kind of true. If you just paint it yourself, it becomes freelance.
There are a number there. If you are not already on or have not looked at, there's a Facebook group called Freelance Model Railroading. There's
Okay.
called Freelance Model Railroading Prototype. Use those sites, and you'll see people that have done just that. They've bought a BNSF locomotive, and they've just patched their number and locomotive. There's a Seaboard Central, I think, is a model railroad that a fella on he's got a YouTube channel.
Okay.
And he has a Facebook presence, and all of his equipment, and it's a very nice railroad, but he's got BNSF SD40-2s where the BNSF is gone, and it says Seaboard Central on the side, and he's got Norfolk Southern locomotives the same way. So absolutely, people do that.
You can do that. Okay. Yeah.
I'd like to know what a Seaboard. I'd like to know what a Seaboard Central locomotive will look like that isn't patched someday.
Like one that you just did it from scratch. I suppose you can buy. Many manufacturers sell undecorated, don't they? So you don't have to take off the BNSF. You can buy just blank box, mostly rolling stock though, right? Not so much locomotives.
Correct.
Okay, because it'd be expensive to make blank locomotives.
But, as equipment moves around in the prototype world from one railroad to another, it is not unusual for it not to get repainted every time, just to be patched. So in the freelance train of thought, if you have a railroad, it's not unreasonable to think that your freelance railroad will have secondhand, third-hand equipment from other railroads. And if it's a smaller railroad, a lot of smaller roads don't have the budget to repaint equipment. So it's not that unreasonable to just patch a prototype painted locomotive or freight car for your own freelance railroad, and you can do it to where it looks very good.
Well, my Great Western that I love so much, the little short line around here, it's one of the Omnitrax railroads. Their most recent acquisition in locomotives is solid black, and it just has the number on the side. They don't even have their name on it. It's just ugly. It's just 100% terrible. And I would never make it, but that would be prototype if I did that. I could probably custom that one because you just paint it black.
If you did that engine, it would be prototype, yes.
Yeah. And so, they have one that's that you have to definitely make yourself to prototype, because it's the one that I operated when I worked at a lumber company, and their color is orange, but this particular paint faded to pink. So it was the pink locomotive for years and years through the 90s. So I'd have to make that the correct color too. But these guys are talking in chat about your Seaboard and seeing that. I don't know if you can see those.
I can see. I've got to look closely to see what's on there.
So they're talking about their short lines that they run and freelance group. Napa Valley Northern is my club road name. That's cool, Robert Darby. And then you have a private one, Darby Rail Service. You named it after yourself. I guess you can do that when it's your railroad.
Well, sure.
That's awesome. And he has a member at his club who does Nevada Western. You guys should all type in the names of your railroads over here. I'd be curious to see what they're all called.
Hey, we have a John again.
John, you're here.
Should I try it? Should I hope it's going to work this time?
We're just chit-chatting.
I was afraid. No, I did a hard restart on everything, and I was afraid when I pulled the plug it was going to shut all this down, and I was really hoping it wouldn't. So I'm glad you're still here.
We're here. We made it. We survived. We've just been talking about short lines and prototype, more prototype than freelance actually in this conversation. But
cool.
Yeah. So, and Walker's here. I don't know if we can bring him on.
Well, now that I'm back, we can try.
And Cliff, thanks for coming on and talking to us. It's cool that you're doing the B&O.
Are you taking off, Cliff? Oh, figures.
No, I can hang around probably for another 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, you're welcome to hang around if you want to.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you guys. I
Oh.
appreciate being invited.
Sure. So, well, here, Dave's here. Should I bring Dave on?
Yeah, Dave will have something to tell us. Hi,
Dave
Dave.
always has something to say.
Oh, Dave.
Oh, hi, John.
Let's-
Hi, everyone.
Did you say hi to yourself?
Yeah, I completely forgot my. I gotta turn the headset on too.
Oh, so
So,
what's your comment on all this freelance and prototype stuff that I've missed everything of?
well, I mean, out here we, like on some of the operating sessions that we do out here, we run prototypical, and the layout is also based on the actual prototype. But
Mhm.
we also have some layouts that are freelance where we still do prototypical operations on them. So, is
Mhm.
there a term that's called for each one of them?
Oh man, this adds a lot of vocabulary because now you got
I-
to define the railroad and the operation type.
I think I can answer that question. It's still protolance, right? Because you're not doing anything strictly by prototype, and it's not completely made up either. So that would have to fit protolance.
Yeah.
Change my mind, everybody. I mean,
That's what we do at the museum. I mean, we can run, be prototypical. We
Mhm.
can run just the railroads that ran on the OC&E. If you look at the layout as the OC&E and the trains, we could put them on there and be just the OC&E. But the public comes in and they're like, "What's this? I've never heard of this. Where's the BNSF? I watch that one every day. Where's the Pennsylvania Railroad? I'd love to see a steam train." So we run all sorts of stuff that belongs to our volunteers because our purpose is visitor experience, and people could care less if it's prototype. They just want to see cool trains that they know. so
Now,
right.
so we're proto freelance then maybe because we run more of random stuff.
so a little slightly off topic, but I wasn't sure if I already told Michelle this, John. But TrainFest is canceled for 2021.
Yeah,
I wasn't
that's-
sure if you
Saw
guys
that
have.
news. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's been
You guys-
going around. There was also some news that I read about today that Atlas bought more of the MTH stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, including some locomotive tooling. So should be
An
interesting.
HO or an O?
O scale. Sorry, I should have mentioned
The
that.
O.
O scale.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's good to
Yeah.
see product continue.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with it.
I mean, all of us were looking forward to doing TrainFest because I mean it's the biggest show in our area, and for us, we have our club layout that goes up there, and the museum as well. So for us, we do publicity for both.
Yeah. So Sparky's question on the screen about minimum orders. I've
Mhm.
learned a lot about this at the museum about minimum orders.
Mhm.
I don't know if Chris, if it works the same way with Tangent, if they were already ordering that car and that made it the car that you ordered a hopper because they were already doing it, or did you totally just your car is the order?
No, it is piggybacked, if you will, on an existing order that they've got going. So it does have to marry up with that, but there is a minimum number of cars per road name and road number that you can order. Most of the manufacturers do have a number that's different.
I think
but yeah.
Acura was like 24, 36, or 48 and above.
Accurail
Oh.
has the lowest numbers, and that's why
Yeah.
we've been seeing a lot of Accurail freelance runs, is because your average fella can go out and order. I think it's 48. I think is the minimum. I think
The lowest I've ever had order is 300, and I could do 3 different numbers in that, or 3 different styles, 100 each is the smallest I could order, but I needed to order 300 of the base car. And one time I had to order 360 of them. And those are from major manufacturers, but I'm piggybacking off of their order too. They are already
Right.
ordering it. I can't just say order 300 of these. They're not going to do that because it doesn't make
Right.
sense financially
And
for them.
And on a plus side
Yeah.
for us, Michelle, since they're an Illinois-based company and they're about an hour away, we can actually physically drive down there and pick up the order when it's completed to save them on shipping.
To save you on shipping.
Well, either way, same result.
Yeah.
They're paying for shipping, or if we
And-
drive down there, we save them whatever
And
the
it's-
cost of shipping is.
That's nice that they'll do a low numbered run like that. That's really different. And Chris, that's kind of the market you're hitting is low numbered run of a custom kind of car.
Yeah, I mean, they're all going to be limited edition. So this first order, I can tell you this, the Home Shop's first order, we're doing 7 road names. Each road name is going to have 4 road numbers, and each road number is going to be 65 copies of each car.
Now, do you
So-
have a printer that can print the decals yourself?
I know I don't print them up myself. I've ordered them all through Circus City or Mr. Brillinger's company.
Because my friend, he makes and prints his own decals too, which Michelle has seen because a couple of the guys at the club have bought decals from him, and he's been doing publicity on it.
Yeah. And like Lionel, I got to see Lionel's printers. And when I visited Lionel Trains, they can do those birthday cars for people because they can one-off print on this big printer that the car goes in. It's pretty cool to see that work.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Go for it.
I'm taking a risk doing this because last time I did this, I had to go away again. Probably people watching are going, please ask the question. So, Chris, since I didn't hear the answer, did you say that they're not, based on the conversation I just heard, I'm assuming they're not pad printing? They're just sending you the blank cars and you're getting decals made? Is that how that's working?
No, the production home shops cars are going to be pad printed at the factory in China. Correct.
That's going to look really good. I'm looking forward to seeing this.
I don't think anything comes out of a Tangent box that doesn't look really good. I'm excited about these cars.
Yeah, that's true. I'm glad you partnered with Tangent because as far as I'm concerned, they're among the best when it comes to rolling stock. I know that there was another guy whose name the company escapes me, but they were doing something where they printed directly onto the car sides.
That's Value Trains USA, and I've ordered from them. He's still in business, but I can order 50. He's only got one car, and it is this specific box car. But I did a dinosaur car for Dinosaur Days, and I could order 50 of them, and the price was great, and I could have them in 2 weeks.
Oh, cool.
And so we did our 10th anniversary cars, our dinosaur car, and I started a Christmas car every year, and so I can order 50 of them, and they sell really well for us because it's the public. They don't care what the box car is. It's a cool car that they get to take home with 3 dinosaurs on it. I mean,
well, I think with something that's sort of a one-off collectible like that, people aren't going to necessarily rivet count and nitpick it. You know, I mean, we had a convention car for the PCR. Remember, Cliff, the flat cars that I forget his name now. I remember his last name, but I forgot his first name. Sansuchi, remember, or Sansusi. I forgot his first name, but he made these flat cars, and Milton, that's right, Milton Sansusi, and he made flat cars. They were hand made. He did the molds and everything out of, I think, some kind of a resin or something like that, and handmade every convention car that was sold.
Oh my!
And they're nice. They're nice cars. I mean, you know, is it a, you know, an Exact Rail or a Tangent or a Moloco? No, but it's not supposed to be, right? It's a convention car. It's a convention car, flat car, and for what it is, it looks great. And what matters is what was put into it, right? Hand built convention cars. You can't get that anywhere. So.
Still waiting for the N scale version of that.
Oh, N scale. I don't think he was going to make any, Cliff.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. There's so many more options than there used to be. You know, I couldn't imagine trying to model in the 70s or 80s and trying to get what you wanted. And I get those car kits donated all the time where you actually build the car from a box of sticks. And I look at that and all the little tiny metal parts in there, and it just blows me away that people could actually do that. So I'm super impressed.
Yeah. You were asking a little bit about the blending, you know, and the detail that goes into the car. I can talk a little bit about this first order of cars if I can. You know, when you go to AccuRail and you order a 4750 is a 4750. When I went to Tangent, he said, well, this particular run that we're going to place, you have a choice of the 1979 and the 1980 version. The 1979's got very specific brake arrangement, very specific roof lock arrangement. It's got the small pull tab. The 1980 version is the first car that's got the large pull tabs, and it's got its own roof lock ends. They're very, very different. And we had a lot of conversations with the railroad owners. Which one do you want? You know, which one fits into your roster? We'll write it in there. Is it going to be the 79 car? Is it going to be the 80 car? And then all of the data on the cars matches very specifically, including lot numbers that are right in line with what would have rolled out of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania on that particular month that the cars are built. You know, so there's a lot of time and thought that went to making these cars look as prototypical as you can. I mean, this car is going to look like a 1980 PS 4750 that rolled out, except for the paint scheme is the road name is different, but there a lot of thought went in those details. And with the Kansas Pacific car that you have,
pulling it back out,
that one there,
I picked the right one.
We did
See if I can
something a
get the
little bit
detail.
different with that one. There's a fellow named Hank Stevens who helped Anthony Lorch, that's his railroad, with the artwork, and he's got his own Stevens rail car, proto freelance car shop of his, and he's got his own railroads. And I went to Tangent and I said, okay, we want this car to represent as it would have been built, but they're doing the 1980 version car, which is not what Michelle is holding, because actually that one is. It's got the large tabs. I did find one and painted, which you do have.
Which I have. Okay.
But I said, you know, I'd like to have the Stevens Railcar logo on these cars. What do you think about, would it have been appropriate in this time for a car shop to have built PS 4750s in kit form, not at Butler, Pennsylvania? And Dan Kohlberg and Dave Lalbach were very supportive of that, and they had some prototype examples. And if you'll look at that car, Michelle, there is actually a Stevens Railcar logo on it. So these cars represent cars that were built by. It's under
Which
your.
one is that?
It's about 4 panels from the right end of the car, 4 or 5 panels at the bottom.
Okay, so it's this one right here.
The little yes, that one there.
Okay,
and
I don't know if my camera will show it. But
it's very small, but it's there. It's the Stevens Railcar logo that he has on his stuff. And you know, Tangent came back with his facility, Stevens Railcars in Birmingham, Alabama, is where he has it in his mind. And he said, well, if it was built there, the first railroads in 1980 that would have touched it would have been the Southern and the ICG, and on the consolidated lube plates are Birmingham, ICG, and Southern dates for 1980, because that's who would have inspected the cars first on their trip from that facility to the Kansas Pacific Railroad interchange in Memphis. So, you know, there's a lot of prototype thought that went into the details of these cars, even though it's a freelance railroad in theory.
There's a ton of detail on this car. Can you see all the printing on the bottom part of it? I need my readers to read it in real life, so I know you can't read it on the screen.
Correct. And, you know, those decal sets were made
so
not by Tangent, so there's going to be a little bit more detail on the cars that are factory made. But it's a combination of an eye for how do we make this car believable and look like it would have been a 1980 PS 4750. But
there's detail on this car. Let me show the top. I don't know if you guys can see it, the little red handrail on it.
Now, Michelle, you could add more by painting it, adding, I don't know, graffiti or anything like that, and it's still a custom car with decals, but now it's also a custom car with decals with custom paint.
I have to say, I love graffiti, but I don't think I could graffiti this car because it's
well,
so pretty.
You know, if there's 2 of the Ambassador Fleet cars I sent to a fella named David Rodriguez. He has he is in San Antonio, and he models a Texas Mexican branch line, the Agnes Street Spur, he calls it. He's got a Facebook page called the Agnes Street Spur, and I sent him to. He's got one of those layouts where he takes a picture of a car on it, and you have to look at it for a few seconds to determine, is it a prototype photograph, is this a real car, or is it a model? So those are the kind of people that I'm sending these cars out to create those kind of pictures. And he said, do you mind if I weather it? And I said, no. And he said, do you mind if I put graffiti on it, or some monikers on it? And he's actually got a couple of graffiti monikers on the car, and he's done a lot of weathering. He's got it. I'm trying to get that car from him in time for the show next week. I'm not sure that'll make it because he just had a baby, which is understandable. But if any of you are so inclined, go search on Facebook, Agnes Street Spur. And he's been posting progress pictures as he's been weathering that particular car. And, you know, growing up in New Orleans, I have a friend, his name is Jim Selzer, and he lived right next to wood siding on the NS in Slidell, Louisiana. And he was one of those people. He would get a stick of chalk, and when a train was parked behind his house at wood siding, he had his own moniker, and it was kind of an outline of his house and a station sign that said Woods, and he wrote "Take siding at Woods," because that's what the dispatchers, the train order would say, or the track warrant would say, such and such train, take siding at Woods. So that was his moniker. And I asked David Rodriguez if he could put that moniker on the Kansas Pacific car that he has. And he said, well, do you have a picture of it? And I couldn't find one, but I've got a friend in New Orleans who knows Jim Selzer. He's still kicking, and Jim actually hand wrote a page of his moniker, and it was sent to me, and I scanned it, and I sent it to David Rodriguez, and that moniker is on the car that he's doing, which is pretty cool. And
that's neat. That's a story.
Adding those details to these freelance cars helps blur the the idea is for the person who is the visitor or the observer or the operator to be able to comfortably step into the world of what is this railroad trying to create. And those are the kind of prototype details merged with the freelance concept. Somebody could actually feel like I'm switching a Kansas Pacific car, and it makes sense.
I like that. And the graffiti that I like is because I know some of the graffiti writers, like the guys who do it, and they have a story as to why they do what they do. And so I like some graffiti. I don't like tagging. Tagging to me is wasteful and stupid.
Right.
There's a difference.
Oh, and that's one of the reasons I personally modeled in 1996.
So yeah, but the moniker thing, I just bought this huge book called Train Graffiti. It's like this thick. I don't know if I bought it off Amazon. It's cool, and it has monikers in it in the back. The last section is about famous monikers with chalk, and it's really interesting. So it's interesting to hear you tell that story. That connects that to the book for me. So yeah, this is cool. This car's beautiful. I wish you all could hold it like I am.
Have you broken anything on it yet, Michelle?
I have not broken anything yet. It's just sitting here and very, very carefully. And the other one's already back in the box, so I don't break it. So
yeah,
these are great though.
Yeah,
I think it's.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I'm looking forward to seeing more, better, closer pictures and stuff. That'll be cool.
I like the story of these going everywhere. I think you're going to have to collect all that into something to tell us the story of their travels, their journeys.
Well, my initial, this is the first time I've created a business from scratch and had to figure out how do I advertise it. So there's a lot of creative ideas that I'm just executing as they appear, and this is one of them. And I want to do an album of the travels of the Ambassador Fleet cars, and I'm not sure whether I'll have a separate one for each car or have one large album with everything together. But I tell people I'm way billing the cars to them, and this is almost like a virtual operating session. When you have an operating session, you move cars across your railroad. Well, this particular fleet of cars, I'm operating on a railroad that is much larger than just one layout. They're traveling around the country, and it's kind of fun actually. And I was a little bit nervous at first. Tangent sells these packs of replacement parts or screws of all the detail parts, and I figured every time these cars go somewhere, they're going to come back with pieces missing. And I'm going to tell you, I've been remarkably impressed. I haven't had to dig into any of those supplies yet. These cars are holding together pretty well. And if you visit my website, themeridianspeedway.net, on the homepage, I've got links to a couple of YouTube videos. I sent a couple of locomotives to Josh Clark about 5-6 years ago. He's got that NS Asheville layout in North Carolina, very well done. And I said, hey, he's a YouTuber, his NS Modeler 24, I think is his YouTube address. I said, what do you think about, in my proto freelance story of my railroad, coal would originate on the Norfolk Southern and end up going to export to Mexico on my railroad. So these trains would run through. What do you think about if I send you a couple of my locomotives doing a YouTube video? And he did a 2-part series of, my locomotives on his railroad, his NS railroad in Asheville, bringing an empty coal train to his railroad, and he pulled the power off at the yard and diesel facility on his railroad. And went through the video with Norfolk Southern Power on the He's actually got an operating coal mine where he puts live loads into cars, and he did that with Norfolk Southern Power. And in part 2, that train comes back, and at his Asheville yard, the NS power comes off, and he puts my power on, but it's a load, so it's got NS power mixed in with it. And to me, putting your things.
It's not just
like
me,
that,
is it?
I want to see it. No, it's not just you.
We're losing part of what you're saying.
Yeah, we're losing a lot of what you're saying.
Oh.
I
I'm
think
getting most of it, but
yeah, my
So,
gremlins
can you
have
hear me now?
visited too. Well, for
oh,
the
and
moment,
Sparky just put up the link to that page. He's in Asheville, or he's just modeling Asheville.
He's actually in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm booking an
Even-
airline ticket to there. For October.
Drayton's even operate on that layout as well.
I'll have to go visit.
Yeah, I think I've seen that channel before. I like the videos he does. He gets if it's the one I'm thinking of, he gets the nice low sort of rail fan shots. Yeah, that's one of the better channels that I've seen.
Him and his dad built that layout, but
Right.
it's more dad than son.
Yeah.
But he's just been he's been adding on over the years.
Yeah, I wish I had more time to watch videos.
Having done that, kind of gave me the idea to move these cars around this way, and it's been kind of fun.
Yeah,
It's kind of like how the big boy is traveling around the U.S. again.
You guys all
Sorry,
saw
had
the
to plug
schedule,
it.
right? I was telling
Well-
Chris he's in Fort Worth, so he gets to go see it on the 14th.
But if he goes back home to New Orleans, he can see it there too.
Yeah, in
I'm
New
originally
Orleans
from
is
New
where you
Orleans,
can ride it.
But I live, if I could, I live in Fort Worth now. But yeah, it is. I haven't studied in detail the schedule for the 4014, but I'll take a look at it here.
It's going to New Orleans, so if you want to plan a mini vacation back home, you might go down there and take a look
And-
when it's down there.
If you want to support another museum in New Orleans, their excursion, I think it's the 21st is the date in New Orleans, and you buy your ticket through the Union Pacific Museum in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and they'll do an excursion as a fundraiser, and you'll go right along the riverfront down there. It should be
cool.
really cool. It should be really cool. I don't think they've
Right on.
announced that part yet, but it'll be coming. So if you want to do it, look for it.
You're letting all kinds of cats out of the bag.
Well,
on
that
this show.
one, they always do an excursion every year. That's their fundraiser. That's their big fundraiser. And so some of our volunteers are actually crew on that. And so we all know what's going on there. But they'll probably, I think the museum will start selling tickets very soon. So.
Hey
And
guys,
speaking of something soon, John, don't we have a convention coming up?
yeah,
We do.
I was going to say that. I just realized it's like half over. The show's more than half over, and I wanted to talk about the convention. Oh, someone just disappeared.
Dave
Oh,
did.
Dave just disappeared.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, hi, Dave.
I did not kick him off, but also Walker is on. So with that, I want to talk to you some more, Chris, but
Yes, sir.
just I want to bring Walker on.
Sure.
So
Okay, well, thanks, Chris. It was awesome hearing your story, and
Yeah.
thanks for letting me talk about your secret. I'm sorry. Thanks for letting us announce
all right.
it.
it's really cool. And
Then we
thanks
can
for,
anticipate it.
thanks for taking the time to be with Michelle.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Chris.
Chris. Take care,
I'll get
man.
these in the mail tomorrow, I promise, and I won't break them.
Awesome. I have faith.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Thanks. We'll
We'll
talk to
see
you
ya.
soon. Okay, so Cliff, can you hang out for a few more minutes while we talk to Walker, or should we? Okay,
Or do you want to really quick talk about your convention?
I don't
And
know if we can do it really quick because there's quite a
Okay.
bit to talk about. So
Okay,
as long
well,
as-
let's
yeah.
talk to Walker real quick because I wanted to ask him a couple questions, and then we can talk conventions for the rest of the show if we want to. Because I'm wearing the shirt for my convention that starts tomorrow.
oh well, let's get Walker on then.
So let's get Walker on and talk about
Let's get him
freelance.
to
real quick.
walk right on. Walker,
Hey guys,
Hey,
how are
Walker.
you?
I'm doing good.
Glad
Good.
to hear that. It's nice to see you. I haven't talked to you in quite some time.
Yeah, I kind of went off the radar for a little bit.
I know. So what's your news here today? What are you up to?
Just got off work. That's about it.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I asked Walker to come on, and I should talk about why. So the first freelance railroad I ever saw was Walker's HO scale big turn and Southern locomotives. And when I met you in person that day, you had him there, and I was like, "Is that a real railroad?" You're like, "No, it's my railroad." And and I was just like, "You can do that?" So
Do anything you want in model railroading.
Yeah, and they were really cool. And you were in the process of moving
I
at the
was.
time, and so you decided to scrap that idea of the HO, Big Turn and Southern,
Yeah.
and you went
Did
with
not
N
have enough
scale.
room for it.
Yeah, so you decided to continue the story though. You have a story behind it, right? Like is it loosely based on something? Tell us a little bit about the Big Turn and Southern.
Oh man. When I started it, I just wanted to kind of do my own thing. I've never really done any prototype modeling except for MKT, and even then it was extremely loose. I didn't know what I was doing. I had tore down my MKT Bluffs N scale layout at my house in Missouri, and I just wanted to try N scale and get back into it because that's what I had started with. So I went through all that, got bored with it, tore it down, wanted to try HO, and I don't know. I just wanted to make my own railroad, and Big Turn and Southern came from the big peninsula turn that I had on the HO scale layout when I was doing track work, and it just stuck. So the first locomotive I got was a Bowser U25B, and just spray painted it black and put some Gothic white decals on it, Big Turn and Southern, and it just went downhill from there.
And then you made cars and you made
Yeah, then
all of it.
I did everything, and that took off into a rabbit hole in itself.
You know, Walker, I didn't realize that you had done HO first. I thought you had always been N scale.
Well, I started N scale,
Okay.
which my father got me into it, and I did that forever. And then I wanted to do HO because at N scale, it's kind of hard to find the stuff that you really want. And I didn't have the skills yet to, scratch build it, or my eyes weren't open to, the forums. They weren't as deep back then as they are today. Mm-hmm. So I decided to do HO just for the ease of getting stuff. And, but yeah, I've done HO, done a lot of N, haven't done anything else though.
Yeah. So then Walker I don't know if your creativity, you weren't finding joy in it, I think. And you decided to just sell it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
This is a long one. I pretty much turned into an influencer on Instagram. If you guys know what that is, because I kind of don't, but somebody called me a hype beast, which I don't know what a hype beast is.
Hype beast?
A hype beast?
HYPE, hype?
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody who just hypes everything up or whatever. I was just modeling for the hell of it. And it kind of turned into like a job just to do something so I could post it on social media. And I'm not saying that wasn't fun. It's nice to get attention and everything, but at the end of the day, I was doing it more for everyone else and not for myself. So
wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah, it got to a point where it was kind of screwing with me emotionally, and I just had to get out of it for a little bit. So and January 9th.
Yeah. So you put it up for sale on Facebook. I'm the first person that I'll buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured if I'm going to quit, I may as well sell it and try and get some money out of it so I can do other things. But I mean, now you can see the room is filled with car parts and all of my tools because I'm a big automotive enthusiast. So, I traded one thing out for the other, but sold all the Big Turn and Southern stuff. It's all on to previous owners. Of course, you've got some now.
I have a lot of the N.
Yeah, you do. The only thing, I didn't keep any of my Big Turn and Southern stuff. I sold, and I only sold one to somebody I actually know who I still talk with, and that's my friend Randall. I sold him the last BTNS units that I built, which was the ABA F unit set. So he's got those. Anytime I go over and visit them, he's like, "Oh, I've got these. Are you sure you don't want to buy them back?"
He's probably going to charge you more, dude, than what you paid.
Yeah, I know.
Right? He's going to make a few bucks off his buddy.
Right.
So the other day, was this like 2 days ago? Walker posts on Facebook, "I'm back. I'm going to prototype model." And my first comment is, "You can't have the Big Turn and Southern back."
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I've had almost 7 months because I quit. I announced I was done on January 9th of this year. And, the day after the layout came out of the room, because it's just, I honestly, I didn't want to look at it anymore. It took up all the room. It took up all my free time. It took up all my money, and I wanted to do other things. I just didn't want to look at it anymore. But deep down, I've always been a modeler. It's what I love to do. It really does bring me joy. And 6 months away, 6-7 months away for me is a long time not to touch a model. Mm-hmm. And there towards the end, I was doing other things. I dabbled a little bit in Warhammer, if you guys know what that is, the little tiny miniatures. I bought a few D&D miniatures and hand painted those. Those are really fun. That's really good therapy. If anyone's ever getting burnt out on model trains, go buy some little D&D figures and paint those. It'll really clear your mind. And it's just nice. I learned how to use a wet palette.
Right I'm digging mine out because they're right here.
I knew you were going to have them ready to go.
No, they're just in my box. I did this one.
The screen's really small.
I know. See how tiny
it is? Draconian? What is it?
It's my friend Charlie. It's his character. And it's
the one that I have. I've still got my workbench, but it's a mess.
So anyway, but that's a little off topic. Sorry, I totally scrolled on you guys. To show you. I painted a miniature.
That's fine.
But you came back and you said, I'm ready to model again, but it's going to be prototype.
I am. So I'm not going to be doing any modeling well, I'm currently trying to buy a house right now. Me and the girlfriend are, and it's really tough. It's really tough here in Oregon. House prices are just insane. And
I think that's everywhere right now. Colorado's bad.
It's getting there. I equate everything to when I lived in Missouri. About 5 years ago, I bought my house in Missouri.
John's laughing because he's in California. This is 4 times the price of our house.
I'm surprised Cliff isn't rolling over there also.
Oh, man. I joke around up here with my friends at work saying I couldn't buy a porta potty for the price I bought my house back in Missouri up here. I couldn't.
Yeah. But you have to live in Missouri, though, if you want to have the cheap house, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a completely different monster up here.
Yeah. If you don't like humidity and heat in the summer and extreme weather in the winter, you're better off where you are, right?
In Missouri, you can wake up at 8 in the morning and you'll be sitting in soup. Right. It's girl. I don't miss it. Yeah. But no,
so,
I'm going to come back. I love modeling. I want to do something MKT. I want to do something prototype. I would love to model. I was born and raised in Columbia, Missouri, and I haven't done much research, but I've seen photos. MKT had a spur line that ran to one industry I know of for sure, and maybe a few others. I would love to do to model that in the 60s or 70s, whenever it existed. But for right now, it's just going to be armchair modeling for me. I'm going to do research, maybe dabble on any rail, come up with a track plan, see what I can find on the internet. But it was never going to go away. I love modeling too much. There's no escaping the beast.
There's no just quitting.
Yeah, you just can't do it.
So now you just have to find out what makes you happy. But I thought it was really interesting, your story where you did a freelance twice in 2 scales.
Yeah.
And now you're like, I'm going to do prototypes. So that's why I thought, for tonight's topic, that was really interesting. But you're also bringing up a huge topic for people. I think a lot of modelers hit that wall that you hit.
Yeah, it's
I'm spending too much money. It's no longer fun. It's too much work. It's, it's stress now instead of fun.
It is. It gets to the point where you set a goal for yourself and you put all this time and effort into it and expense, and it can take over and you don't really notice it until you abruptly hit that wall. Your creativity goes away. You don't get, like, for me, got to the point I didn't want to come in here and into the room where the layout was. I didn't want to look at it because it would just put me in a bad mood. And I had to get away from it. And then on top of that, with the social media presence I had, people were always contacting me, and I did a little bit of commission work, and I'd be in a mood where I didn't want to even think about model railroading. And then, my phone would go off. Hey, I've got a project you might be interested in. I can't, dude. Nothing against you, but I don't want to right now.
And that's exactly why with Chris on the show, he's filling a void for that for people, because they can't get the cars they want. People don't want to do the custom work because it's not fun.
Yeah. It gets tedious. It gets really tedious.
I had an email. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Walker.
No, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I had an email from a guy today that emailed me asking, hey, do you guys, I guess he must think it's a big company or something. Do you guys fix models? I have these old models from the 1980s that I want to have fixed. And I'm like, well, I certainly don't have time. Even if I could do it, I don't have time because of all the volunteer work I'm doing with the convention right now. But the other thing that I was thinking, I referred him to Adam Pinales, and he wasn't able to do it either because he's just too busy.
Yeah,
but that's kind of
he's got a whole garden railway.
I know. I've been
to deal with
following
live
that.
steam across his driveway.
Crazy. I can't wait to get back out to Utah to see that in person. But
how many times has he redone that thing now? I can't keep up. I've lost count.
I don't even know how he has the energy to do all that stuff. It looks like a lot of work, but I guess if you get it in your head that you want to do something and you're motivated to do it,
and it's fun. It's fun for him.
Yeah, nothing's going to stop you. But I wanted to ask you something, Walker, that it seems like I understand, not wanting to do stuff because people are giving you a hard time or whatever. And I think that's something that you just have to deal with, especially as an influencer, right? Because I get bad comments all the time. And it's just usually as simple as just deleting the negative crap off the channel, just as a matter of course, because no one wants to see that. People come to the channel to learn about stuff and have fun. That's what it's about, right? But I want you to know that your videos inspired me to try stuff that I hadn't done before. And when you said that you had quit, I really wanted to call you. I was like, dude, what happened? But I could tell you
blew up for quite a while.
Right. And I could tell you didn't want to talk to people about that stuff. So I was like, you know what? The guy quit, respect it, but I'm really glad to hear that you're interested in getting back in because your level of talent is, well, it's exceptional. And I'm hoping that you'll share what you do, at least with your Facebook friends, so that I can see what you end up doing, because I was always really impressed and interested. And I think that we've talked about that on the phone.
Yeah.
Very impressed and interested with what you were doing.
Me too. Your freelance work looks like all your stuff looks totally prototypical real, like absolutely your work. And that's that barrier for me that we were talking about earlier. I couldn't do a freelance. I'd have to have a company make it for me, but you can do it. This wasn't a barrier for you.
It was a long process to learn all those skills. Mm-hmm. It was very enjoyable, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And it's like riding a bicycle. I can do it again. I think my problem, the reason I got so burnt out, was because I did everything so quick.
You did.
You did. You built that layout in like a week.
That's what I was going to say. You built that layout so fast, and it was a really, really well done. At least from the pictures I saw. Maybe you just took them at the right angle or something, right? But it looked really good.
It came together so quick, and honestly, when I was tearing it down, I did get a little emotional because I've never built anything that quick or that good. And I couldn't get the layout out of the room, even though I designed it to. I got the top level off, and it wouldn't fit through the door. Mm-hmm. So
I have to say Kellen's comment right here, because I know her. Yeah. Pace yourself, you madman. I can totally picture her saying that to you in the room
with her new hair color.
Yeah, she looks great.
She knows.
Look, Walker got all excited there for a second. Oh, yes.
It looks great.
It does. I saw the pictures.
It does. It's beautiful.
She knows better than anyone how much I love to build and create, and it doesn't matter what it is. I'm back into doing my car stuff now, and so I've got something else to think about, which I think also helps my creativity come back, because you can't really go fast on a car. If you're like me,
you'll find a way.
I hope not. I don't want to go that fast. I'm tired of going that fast.
You need to slow down and enjoy life. I have learned that. What 2020 taught me, there's always time to go watch a train. Doesn't matter what I'm doing at work or what I'm working on. There's time to go out and watch that train.
That's the thing. I think the pandemic and the quarantine and the shutdown and all this shut-in time that everyone got, it didn't help me a bit, because I've always kind of been a shut-in. I'm a big hermit. I don't answer my phone a lot, which I don't know why. I just kind of in it with myself or whatever. But when the pandemic went down and quarantine and all that stuff happened, that was my brain was, let's go. It's time to do something, because I was amazed the hobby shop was even open, which also didn't help me because they stayed open during the whole thing. But yeah, I went full send, and
Yeah.
it wasn't good.
But it's it's been interesting watching your journey, though. I think people won't feel alone when they feel like you. You know what I mean? Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that it wasn't always fun, and it was hurtful, and it was emotional, and all of that stuff. That's the reality of modeling.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
sounds like a self-help show.
Yeah, we are.
we all do modeling because it makes us happy and we find enjoyment out of it, and we can become really good at it. And everybody wants to be good at something, and there's no shame in that, in any of it. But you do have to pace yourself, because if you go too quick, then it doesn't become fun anymore. If you get a new project and you fly through it, then you've got nothing to do, and then you get bored, and then you start thinking too much, and that's just not good. So, I mean, whenever I do start building again, whenever we move and get a house, I'm going to take my sweet time.
That's awesome.
It's
So
just not good to go that
it wasn't that
fast.
you were tired of your freelance line. You were tired of modeling.
I was.
You were tired of the whole thing. Because that was one of my questions to you, is why did you change from freelance to prototype? Did you get tired of it? But it's a different reason. And I didn't know that.
So freelancing, like, you can do anything you want in model railroading, especially when you freelance. You can put it in any locale. You can model any era. It doesn't even have to be real. My freelance was a coal hauling road in the northeastern corner of Oklahoma. I've never been to Oklahoma, but I don't think there's much coal or giant forested valleys in Oklahoma. And as crazy as that sounds, but even with my no restricted modeling for what I wanted to do, it just gets kind of burnt out, because you can do anything. There's no real goal, at least that I found. I didn't have to research anything. The only thing that I ever did while I was running the Big Turn in Southern was look at the car data to see what year that car came out, just so I could keep it in the 60s. That's literally all I did. And that was it. I had no challenge. I could put a bridge there. I could put this super tall building right here. With prototype, there's so much research. It just sounds way more fun to do, to dig in and, trying to find photos, trying to find what equipment went through there, trying to find what locomotives they ran there.
And that's going to slow you down, all that research.
Exactly. It's going to slow my butt way down, because I need to slow down.
Walker, I think knowing the one guy that probably is the hardest hardcore prototype modeler around, that would be Jack Burgess, and hearing him talk about this topic, I think that if you're modeling a prototype and you do try to go for as much, what's the word for it? Not authenticity, but I guess it is authenticity as possible, that when you start building a scene, it will motivate you to do more. Because he calls it feedback. It provides feedback and makes you look at something and say, I really think this looks good, and I can't wait to see the yard with the switch stands installed, or whatever the case is. And I could see how that would be a lot different, because when you're doing your straight freelance, which you were, everything has to come from here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more work, actually.
Right? There's a big energy drain if you're having to create and then build, so you're creating it twice, really.
Yeah.
So
that's when it turns into strain and stress, and it doesn't become fun anymore.
Yeah. You might find that refreshing, sticking to a prototype.
Yeah.
A lot of the decisions are going to be made for you. I mean, the hardest decision you might have to make is, which station do I need to compress out of the layout because there's no space for it, right?
Yeah. Or what do I got to scratch build to make it look appropriate to the photos?
Right. Yeah. It is going to be, are there more photos?
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought Cliff was saying something, but I couldn't hear.
It doesn't always work that way. I mean, I thought, okay, the B&O CT is what I'm going to do. I need to put my main yard. See where all those green plants are? That's where they need to go, and that's non-negotiable. So, I had to move things around, but I hope I'm not jumping ahead a little bit. But one of the fun things is I'm going to be talking to a guy at Rails by the Bay who happens to be an old dispatcher on the B&O CT, and I have had a wonderful opportunity to get to know this guy, and I'm editing articles for him for the B&O Railroad Historical Society, and I would love to get to see him. He's up in the Puget Sound area.
So you're getting a real story for your prototype layout. That's awesome.
I can't tell you. I mean, there is
Yeah.
has such a richness of detail of the activities that went on, and it's definitely influenced me to make sure that as I pick I can't do the whole thing, but as I pick the little segments that I want to do, that I include, well, okay, I need to include this main track here because every day they used to literally stage a train on that track to wait for a certain time of the day, at which point they would run it all the way up the B&O CT and connect onto the Chicago and go to the yard, the major yard that the Chicago Northwestern had. Had to be there at a certain time, and then it went.
So even like something like that would tie into operations for running it.
Oh, completely. Yeah, very much so.
That's cool.
You know, I make a plan.
I had an idea, Walker. If you want to get back into modeling, you could jump right in by attending the Rails by the Bay 2021 convention next month.
That would be cool. I don't have much PTO time though.
Oh, well, you don't have to have too much time off because it's a virtual convention, and all of the clinics are going to be available until something like August, so like 4 weeks.
So I love clinics, so count me in.
Yeah, you'd even have time to watch them if you wanted to.
So when you register, because I asked this question on the last show, when you register, because I'm going to be in Alaska during the actual live show, I get 4 weeks to watch it afterwards with my registration fee. Yeah. And so I have time to actually do it when I get back. So
What are you going to Alaska for?
To ride some trains. My husband's, he has a brother up there we're going to visit, and I'm like, I'm riding the trains. So I'll be riding the Alaska Railroad a lot.
So it wouldn't be the Yukon and White Pass, would it?
I can't get down there. I don't have enough time to, and the Canadian border's closed, so I can't like cross over and come back in and have to. It's not easy right now.
It's still closed right now? Jeez.
Well, it's kind of hard to get and so they're like, forget it, Michelle, just ride Alaska. This time you'll have to come back. So.
Oh. Wow.
So we're down to our last 30 minutes. Walker, thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
Of course.
Thanks and I gave him about 3 hours notice too. So you guys are awesome to pull through and come on for me.
You messaged me when I was in the middle of a weld and I heard my phone go.
Right. And you stopped to the beat. You stopped the beat because you knew it was Michelle, didn't you?
Yeah, I can J-hook and tie it back in. It's all good.
See what I'm saying?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I do appreciate you coming on. It was cool to hear your story too. So we've had a person who's manufacturing this and a person who's done freelance. And thanks. I really enjoyed the conversation. So
of course, me too.
You're welcome to come on anytime, Walker, even if you don't want to talk about trains.
We do this once a month with me on the show with John. John and I, it's just kind of random sometimes. So
that's good. I like randomicity.
Yeah,
it's nice.
So now we're going to talk about train shows. So bear with us.
Okay, I can hang around.
Oh, you want to hang out? You want to stay
you
on?
can hang out and ask questions.
Yeah.
You might have questions.
Yeah, ask questions because Cliff has all the questions. I mean, all the answers.
He has the answers.
All the answers.
I have a train show that starts tomorrow that's in person and not virtual at all. So I don't have a whole lot to say because you guys probably aren't coming because you probably haven't made your flights to come in tomorrow. But this is I have the t-shirt on. I don't know if you can see it. It says all rails lead to Denver, and it's the O-Scale National Convention. And we went with Rio Grande colors, and there's some Rio Grande locomotives on here, and Union Station in Denver is kind of the anchor for this train show. in Colorado with COVID, even with our COVID restrictions back in January, this particular convention hotel had a 5-star rating and we could make it happen because it's a small convention. And now it's definitely happening. So it's going to be interesting to go to my first convention. This is the first convention the hotel is doing too. Since
O-Scale's
shutdown.
the one up above from S, right?
Yes. No.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. S is smaller than O.
Okay. After
S
it
and
gets
this is
fuzzy for me.
2-rail O-scale. I had to learn. There's a lot of O-scalers. However, the TCA group in Denver is heavily involved in this, and they're Lionel guys, and they're all getting along right now.
Do they not usually?
No, I guess not. I guess 3-rail and 2-rail O-scale are different worlds. I didn't know. I thought we're all just modelers, but
Yeah,
Ooh.
3-rail O, Michelle, just so you know. Okay, here's a pro tip. If you ever go to an O-scale layout, like on a layout tour or something like that, and you notice it's 2-rail, do not say to the owner, "You have a great O-gauge layout," because O-gauge is toy trains, and O-scale, those are the hardcore guys. Usually they're, well, the
so
ones.
this is a semantic difference, gauge versus
O-gauge is toy trains like
versus
Lionel,
scale. Okay.
American Flyer.
And they run fast, not prototypical at all.
Well, that's usually, that's kind of one of the spotting features, if you will, if we're talking about trains. Right? But yeah, that's one thing I had to learn. And I always find it funny because people in model trains tend to confuse the terms or use them interchangeably, scale and gauge, and they're not.
Yes, it's true.
The gauge is just the distance between the tracks, and the scale is how big or small the thing is compared to the real thing. And I think a lot of people get confused because, like in England, they call N scale N gauge, but it actually is there. They actually call it that because it's 9 millimeters or something, and the N supposedly stands for 9. I think that's what
I was told.
Yeah. Does that sound familiar, Walker?
A little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've had people argue with me. It's like, no, it's N gauge. No, it's N gauge. It's like, well, not really, because you can have narrow gauge N. Now, what is that? It's not N gauge. It's N scale, narrow gauge, either 3 feet
and N3.
Right? Yeah, 3 foot.
There's
narrow.
an N3. Oh wow.
I
There's
don't know.
ON3. There's ON30. There's there's all these. O scale is the most convoluted thing I have had to learn.
Oh
yeah,
learn about garden scale. That's even worse.
Oh no,
like
that's next year's convention.
There's too many.
National Garden Railroad's in Denver next year. If you want to come, I'll be learning all about it.
Yeah. I think they're having one here for our local group. They're called the Bay Area Garden Railroad Society, Baggers, which I always thought was funny.
Baggers.
Right? Baggers, yeah. If you put a letter in front of it, it means something completely different.
Well, so I'll be doing convention all weekend. Then I start my rail tour. So if you guys want to turn my Facebook off because I'm posting so much, feel free to just unfriend me. You can friend me later. I drive you crazy.
I'm looking forward to hearing about your adventures with the tour thing. I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah, so we'll see how I do as a tour guide. Yeah. So let's talk about the national convention now. Let's talk about this one.
Yeah, I'm so burnt out on the national convention. I'm ruining the day I ever volunteered to help.
And you should say why, because he's editing. So it's all virtual, right? And these are all going to be available for those 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's only made possible because John is editing every video to make them watchable and put together well. So thank you, John, for your time.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for your thanks.
That sounds like a big task.
It is a huge task. I have edited. I think there's like 72. Well, Cliff would know. How many clinics are there, Cliff?
I believe we have an odd number.
71.
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I've had to edit all but I think 3 or maybe 4 of them because our friend Heath helped out. You know, Humanity Junction, and he helped out. But I still had to go in though to the ones he edited and add the little bumper in the beginning. But I do want to talk about the convention because it is something that we're working really hard to get put together. And one of the great things about it is the fact that people who can't go due to proximity issues or financial issues or even mobility issues can still come to the convention. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity for everybody to socialize and make friends and see old friends, just like a real convention. That's kind of the thing that I've been focused on sort of this week, because I'm in the process now. We had this huge push to get all the clinics recorded. Ask Cliff. It was a huge thing. It's like, we have to get these done by a certain time, or else I will not be able to get through it, because it takes a long time to edit. Well,
yeah, let's clarify that this huge push to get these all done was John's huge push to get all these done so that he could have some sanity in all of this.
Well, and it's not working because I'm not getting any sanity yet, because getting the clinics recorded was only part of the problem. Then I had to get them edited. Now, luckily, I was able to kind of keep up as we recorded them, right? So it wasn't like a huge avalanche at the end. The what? First they had to get the clinics. Oh, first they had to get the clinics, right? Thank you, Cliff, for doing that. And actually, Cliff, your clinics were really good. I thought that the ethanol and I forgot the other one now. Ethanol and methane? No.
Butane.
Butane. That's right. Butane, a prototype you can model. Or is ethanol the prototype you can model? But anyway, Cliff actually did 2 really good clinics. The slides and all, and the content was really good. And I got to say that it prompted me to ask Cliff at some point how he knew about all that stuff, because he gets into really obscure details. I'm like, well, how the hell do you know all that stuff? Which led us to an interesting conversation. But what I was, sorry, I get off track here. What I was trying to say was half the battle was recording the clinics. The second half of that battle was editing all the clinics. Now there's more editing, because we have to have a video to let everybody who's attending know how to navigate the convention. And
instructions.
Right? Instructions on how to navigate, right? Because not everybody has been to a virtual convention, so it may not be intuitive to some people. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, you have to have people introduce the videos. So, right? So that's your MC. Well, because all the clinics are recorded ahead of time, which there's a good reason why we did that, which you can ask me about when I'm done telling you this part of the story, because it's also an important part of the overall message here. We have to record the MCs as well. So here's how we're doing that. We're not doing that on Zoom. We're doing it here at the TSG Multimedia Intergalactic Headquarters. I have a green screen here and these 4K cameras and these great lights.
Ooh, fancy.
It's pretty fancy, right?
Yeah.
So that we can have the logo in the background and all this, good audio, so that it has a really sort of live feeling to it, because the MC also has watched the video and knows something about it and is taking something away from it as if you were there, So we're having to record that, which requires even more editing. So guess what I was doing today?
You were editing.
I was editing. You'll be excited to hear about this, Cliff. I have the first session block. That's an evening block done. So we can have a preview of that sometime in the near future. So anyway, it's a ton of work that if I'd known how much work it was going to be, I don't know for sure that I would have volunteered so quickly to help. But I think in the end, and when it's all done, it's going to, I talk about this metaphor of being a house painter. It comes up fairly frequently in conversation, which is, I used to be a house painter. I'd paint exteriors and interiors of houses. And there was nothing better than finishing the job and then standing at the curb when you're done and looking at the house and going, that looks really good, right? It's probably a lot like what you experienced, Walker, when you got your latest episode of the Big Turn in Southern mostly done. You probably stood back and said, wow, that looks really good. I did that, right? I'm expecting that everybody involved with this convention is going to have that feeling when we're there and we're enjoying it, and when all the people that are there are having such a great time, because we've worked really hard to also have the social aspects. So I just want to explain how this works. So in Zoom, you can have this thing called a webinar, which is really kind of a delivery system. It's not a conference or like a Zoom video conference call like what we're all used to. On a webinar, you have a presenter or some source that's putting the information out there, right? So that's what the clinic is. That's what the clinic track is. It's going to be these videos playing these recorded clinics, and then everybody can watch it there, and the clinicians are going to be available to answer questions during this lot. Well, I mean, it's not live, but it's a live playback, right? They're going to be there to answer questions. So it's not like you have to ask a question and interrupt the clinic and then you get behind and then the guy has to rush through his last 10 slides because there were too many questions. They can answer questions during the clinic. And what's really cool is after the clinic is over, there's something called the Great Hall. And that is like this big video conference. And we're going to have a ton of breakout rooms. And 3 of the breakout rooms, or actually 6 of the breakout rooms, are going to be dedicated to where the clinicians can go into their breakout room, their assigned breakout room, and talk to the people that were in the clinic for as long as they want to talk. So they can
that's
answer,
cool.
right? So
you get direct question and answer, even though it's pre-recorded. So
exactly.
Wow.
So the level of quality of interaction with the clinicians is going to be probably even better than what you get at a live convention, because what happens at a live convention is the clinic ends and then people have questions and then they get ushered out of the room because the next guy has to start his clinic on the top of the hour, or whatever the appointed time is. That doesn't happen, because when the clinic is over, everybody who's interested can go to this breakout room and talk really almost as long as they want to. So it's really cool. And
that does sound really cool.
Yeah. So I don't, it's been, like I said, a lot of work and a lot of effort. And for a number of people, it's exciting. And something else we're doing, I see Mini Prince is on. That's Bernard Helen. And he's going to be, there's something else that we're doing that doesn't usually happen at a convention, which is the breakout rooms on certain days at lunch are going to have vendors in them. And Bernard is one of them. Mini Prince is going to be there, and he's going to be there to answer, Mini Prince, right? They do all those cool little animals and figures and whatever,
that's cool.
right? Whatever doesn't exist, that's what Bernard does. And that's going to be really cool, because the people that have signed up so far, I think Bachman has a room, Mini Prince has a room, MRCS, which is Model Railroad Control Systems. They do signaling and detection and all these electronic gadgetry. That's my friend Seth Newman, his company. He's got a room. I just added one today there's a video that plays in between the clinics, and the people that have who was it? Oh, it was Iowa Scale Engineering. They do the proto throttle. They have a room also. And I'm not sure, but I think Soundtracks might end up with a room too. So it's not just clinics and friends, but there's also going to, because the National Train Show is not happening this year. So we're trying to get as many vendors in as possible to talk.
Get it a full house.
Rooms. Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool.
I think it's going to be neat.
Yeah,
that sounds wicked.
What do you think?
It's really, I think it's a terrific value for the money. I mean, it's $49 and
how much is registration? Say that again.
$49.
Okay, that's not bad for a convention. That's a great deal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not bad. I mean, you don't have your hotel, you don't have your meals, you don't have your travel. I mean, but you get all of this, and I think that the conference organizers, it took a long time for them to work through the decision points. What do we want to include? How are we going to execute on what it is that we want to include? I went to the Sugar Pine, which John has a lot of familiarity, the Fresno convention for the Pacific Coast region. And they had an N and Z scale breakout room that I believe was probably had somebody, if not more than one person in it just about all day long. And I hung out there for a while, which is great because I don't know if they would have ever had that at a live face-to-face convention. I found people to talk to from not just the Pacific Coast region, but there was a guy there from Houston, Texas. I know for Rails by the Bay, there are, in addition to the vendors, there's going to be additional groups that have signed up for their own individual breakout rooms that will be open to everybody. So that includes Seth and all the SIG operations, layout design SIG, ops SIG, railroad prototype modelers, but the B&O Railroad Historical Society is going to have a group a little close to my heart here.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you invite them?
No.
Hey,
no.
hey,
But,
don't forget ladies in the hobby.
Yeah, there's mine right there on the screen, ladies in the
Right.
hobby. I'm calling
you
in
go.
from Alaska for this one. So
Thank you. Thank you.
That's true dedication. Yeah.
hopefully I have signal. Now, if I'm not there, it's because I'm on a mountain or something. I don't know.
I don't know, Michelle. I mean, I'm not in Alaska, and I didn't get much signal at the beginning of this show. Now, did I?
yeah, true. But I'm trying to be there. I want to be there. So
Yeah, but also Gordy, the new NMRA president, is going to have his own breakout room twice that week during lunchtime, where you can go meet the president, right? Ask the president, because he's our new NMRA president. Something I want to mention that's also really important is that you don't have to be an NMRA member. My sense, though, is that if someone is not an NMRA member and goes to this convention, that they're going to be very likely to want to become an NMRA member, because the level of information and the people, the friendliness of the people is just, it's not to be believed. I mean, I went to the convention in Salt Lake City in 2019 where Michelle and I met in person for the first time. And I did a video all about that convention, which you can see on the channel here if you search for Salt Lake City NMRA National Convention or something like that. And I talked to literally hundreds of people. Like, I'm not exaggerating at all. I talked to hundreds of people at the convention and at the train show. And the common thing that came up in all of those or 99, some huge percentage of the conversations, was that people came for the trains and they stay for the friends, or they came the first time for the trains and they always come back to see their friends, because that's what it is. It's a chance to see your friends, catch up, socialize, hang out, BS, whatever you want to call it. It's a social hobby for a lot of people. And it's a great way to, if you've always wanted to be an operator, for example, you meet people at places like conventions and you can get invited to an operating session. That's a great way to learn about these things. You could go into the layout design SIG and operation SIG room and meet people who have layouts wherever you live, and, invite yourself to an op session. I mean, you have to obviously get invited, but my point is that if you don't meet people, you'll never get invited. If you do meet people, you at least have a chance to get invited, So it's, I think, a great opportunity, and it's less than $50. I mean, I don't think there's tax added onto it. So it's $49 period for 5 days, something like 14 hours a day. Now, here's the other cool thing. I forgot. Oh no, I think we mentioned this because I told you earlier that if you miss it, you can watch it, because all the clinics are going to be available post. Yeah, we did talk about that.
Post show.
I was so excited,
cool.
I forgot.
Yeah, it's great because, if you're not actually traveling there, it's really hard to commit out of your life at home to actually spend the time all day for that many days in a row. Because when you're at home, there's like laundry and dishes and lawn work,
stuff to do.
Yeah, you got to do it, so you can't just focus. So I'm glad we have more time.
Yeah.
So
But what I was thinking when I said when I made that amazing segue earlier, Walker, was that if you wanted to get inspired to get back into it, it could be a great opportunity to do that, because having seen most of the clinics, there are some really, really, really good clinics. And I lost count of how many MMRs did the clinics. I mean, I could think half a dozen right off the top of my head. So the content, the quality of the content is there.
The first NMRA X that Gordy and Martin Jenkins and I think it was Gert that they were all a part of, that they had me on. After I did my little tour, I watched, I don't even know how many of those over the next 3 or 4 weeks. It's just insane. It's so much content. It's so much to take in, and it's so inspiring. So this is great.
We
like
just had that
on steroids.
We had that question earlier, Walker. How do people see the layout? Because we're talking about they can go to the NMRX and see that still, I think.
Yeah, I think
that's a good point.
I got big-headed one day and Googled myself, and that was the first thing that came up. So you can still see the tour of the old layout.
Okay, good to know.
My Instagram, though, I deleted that, but Monday made it again. I was surprised and got my old username back. So I do have the account back on Instagram. There's only one photo on it, but it is still at MKT 1960s. So there'll be more stuff on there in the future.
Are you going to try to build it at all and just tell people, look, I'm just doing this for myself? You get what you get when you get it, or?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, since I've already gone down that rabbit hole, I kind of know what to do and what not to do. Yeah. But whatever the influencer thing is, I'm not going for that again. It's just going to be me on my free time, no deadline set, just having fun at the workbench on whatever I build, just doing me.
That's good.
I'm not in it for anything.
It'll be more fun.
Yep, I'm not in it for anything else but personal enjoyment.
Yeah,
but I will share.
I still want to know what was it? A hype?
I don't know who it was, but they sent me a message like, you were a hype beast, and I was.
Yeah, I want to know what that is.
Yeah,
So tonight's underlying theme is new vocabulary for Michelle.
What is a hype beast? Right. If you know what a hype beast is, type it in the text or call in.
An Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, we need an Urban Dictionary for this stuff. Yeah. And I'm not sure that proto-freelance is in the dictionary. I think that's a new term too. So I mean, like all of that. I bet it's not in Webster's. So
somebody can add that.
I'm sure it's not in Webster's, but I guess the NMRA glossary, right? I always thought that I think proto-freelance and proto-lance are interchangeable, but I hear proto-lance more, and I think it depends where you live.
Is that slang? Yeah. Is proto-lance like slang for proto-freelance? Like now we have the word and the slang for it?
I don't know.
Like a combination of the two?
Yeah.
Proto-lance. I'm assuming they would be the same thing. Proto-lance would be the same.
Or maybe someone invented that to give it more of a prototype feel, Proto-lance. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Hype beast is slang for someone who is a beast about hype. Now, what the hell is that supposed to mean? You're obsessed about the hype and will do whatever it takes to obtain the desired hype. Dude,
there was a negative comment towards you? This hype beast was negative towards you?
But that's wrong, because you don't hype anything up. You're just
Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are they talking about?
I was as confused as you guys are about it. I was like, I've heard that word before. I have no idea what it means, though.
I've heard hose beast before. Oh,
do what? Do what?
Kardashian.
Oh my God.
No, but I mean, look, dude, seriously, if someone ever says something like that to you again and you're ready to quit, call me.
Oh, well, the thing is the whole time I had the previous Instagram on, I never got a bad comment, which confused the hell out of me, because I was like, surely somebody's gonna, this is crap, dude, or whatever. I never.
You must have photoshopped that.
I like how you make the belligerent voice too. That's good.
Yeah, this is shite, mate, or whatever. I don't know, but no, I don't know. I don't remember. It was somebody. They were like, dude, you're a hype beast at modeling. I was like, thank you. I don't know what that is though, but okay.
Well, maybe because there is like this slang that happens. Like one of the Jack Burgess videos we did some while back, it was like a year and a half ago, and someone came on and called him something like a pimp or something like that, which for people older than say 20 or 25, that means something different, like that's not really a good word, like if you're a pimp, that's not a good thing that you strive to be. But what it meant, and he had to ask like one of his grandkids or something, and like, no, that means like you're really good at it. And he says, oh, so I went over there to do a video, and he says, did you know I'm a pimp? I'm like, what? And he was talking this slang. I mean, imagine him. Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys, if Jack, that coming from him isn't like the first thing you'd expect to hear.
It's
like, hey, I'm a
slang.
pimp.
Like my kids and my daughter right now, everything is sick. That's sick, Mom.
Yeah.
Sick.
I'm like, are you puking about it, or are you? No, it's cool. Okay, it's sick.
Oh,
it's
wait,
cool.
Steve said
Okay.
beast type
I
isn't
gotta
exactly
sign off
negative.
'cause I
Oh.
got an appointment coming up here.
Okay.
So thanks
Thanks
a
for
lot.
coming,
Thanks.
Cliff.
All right, sure
Bye,
thing.
Cliff.
Bye-bye. Bye, Walker.
So it's not negative. It says
Yeah.
that you're recalling good at.
Steve said it's
Great at
not exactly
promoting.
negative. It says that you are recalling good and great at promoting something out there. Oh, okay.
So
I'll
you're
take
a pimp.
that. I do
Yeah,
like
you-
promoting stuff. I mean, I had the Instagram, so I could just share everything. Okay.
Walker,
I'll take it as a compliment.
come to think of it, if you look at it that way, because the way I was interpreting it to mean was that someone thought you were overhyping yourself. Like, oh, I think I'm really good or whatever.
Yeah, part
But
of me thought that too, but I didn't know what it means. I didn't look it up. So
Yeah. I have two thoughts about that. One, it's not bragging if you can do it, and you can do it. So even if someone said that, they're just jealous. Okay, that's number one.
okay.
Number two, if they were saying something bad, it doesn't matter. I mean, who cares? That's some random jackass on the internet. Who cares?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right?
it's the
exactly.
internet.
Yeah. I mean, if I shut down at the first, well, I'm not gonna. I don't mean to make it sound like I'm criticizing what you did. You did what you had to do
I
for your
criticize
sanity.
myself. It's okay.
Okay. If I shut down at the first comment that I had, a negative comment that I had, boy, I would be doing something else for quite a long time now, because haters come out of the woodwork. And I mean, well, look,
10 years ago, I was told I would single-handedly destroy this hobby. It's been 10 years and I haven't destroyed it yet. I'm trying though.
You've made it better, much better.
Well, so did you, Walker.
Yeah, we all do.
And I'm going to dedicate my next video to you, because
Woo!
it's coming it's coming out on Saturday, and it's an N scale install it's a Soundtracks decoder.
They
have
DCC installs.
Dude, they have a new Next 18 decoder. I don't think it's out in the stores yet, but I somehow got my hands on one. Like, I knew someone there by accident, sent it to me, and they knew. I mean, I'm not letting out any secrets here. And I put it into this P42, and I added not only the independently controllable ditch lights, but I also put marker lights on it. So I'm gonna dedicate that to you.
I'll have to get my friend Rambo to watch it. He does those, and I can't do DCC installs.
You can do it. It's not that hard.
Maybe.
Just like you showed me that I could do weathering, you can do DCC.
I'm gonna try it. It's on my list. I want to learn the electronic parts. I want to learn how to do that stuff. So I'm gonna take a class.
Do you know what the secret is to DCC? Is just to understand the basics. Understand what the color codes are, because that's all standard. It's all standard. Understand that LEDs are polarity sensitive. So if it's not working, you probably just have the wires backwards. And there's also ways to look at the LED to figure out which side is positive and which side is negative. So
does your video teach us how to do this? I'm gonna have to watch
that. The video does not teach you how to read the polarity, but I do go through the process of testing the lights before I wire them, so that I know I'm putting the wires in the right place.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess it kind of does in a way, because it's kind of just what I do when I do an install is I get all the lighting effects into the shell first, and then I test them with a battery that has a resistor on it. That's the other thing.
Oh, yeah, the resistor.
Right.
Resistor.
Know that you can't feed it straight voltage without a resistor, or else you will blow up your. And they make a little noise too. I did it just to see what kind of noise it made. It's like a little, like just. But anyway,
I got really good at blowing all the LEDs out of my Woodland Scenics Just Plug system stuff.
Oh no! How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you throw electricity in. You think since I'm a welder, I'd be able to do that?
Oh.
No, pop, it's dead. Throw it in the trash.
That sucks. Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. That's
okay. Well, this has been an interesting show. We've kind of come from a lot of topics, but thanks for everybody putting up with me and me wanting to talk about the difference between freelance and proto-freelance and prototypical.
Did you get to do that? Because
yeah, you missed it, John, but we did.
Okay.
And we talked about the semantics between the three kinds, and yeah, I enjoyed tonight. I had fun talking to everybody. So thanks for the comments. I've been reading through all the comments. So.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go back and watch this to see what I missed while I was out troubleshooting my internet. But whatever I did worked, because it's been fine since.
You're here. Yeah.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, not with my fancy background, though. I had to go to Plan B and use the other computer. Oh, well.
It's okay.
I
did change my picture. I changed my wall. I don't know if anybody noticed, but
is that an E unit or an F unit behind you?
They're both UP Steam. We lean this way. That one is the 951. This one is Big Boy. Leaving Cheyenne on May the 3rd on the test run. You can tell the Steam.
Now, Walker, that
picture is 3 feet tall and 2 feet wide. It's just the way the computer is. It makes it look like it's this big. It's this big. So
my phone screen's really small, so I gotta use
back
the magnifying
up
glass.
and you can see.
You're coming to us on your phone? Wow, look at this guy go.
He's tech savvy.
No.
So, well, thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah.
And Walker, thanks for coming on.
Of course.
And Chris, if you're still out there watching, thanks for coming and explaining everything. And
yeah, I do want to thank Chris too. I'm sorry that my internet had a problem. I feel like I really missed out because I was really looking forward to hearing about that new product. So I'll definitely have to make time, maybe after the convention, to go back and watch this show.
You can watch it later, John, because it's on YouTube. It'll be there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, maybe during my vacation that I'm going to take after July 10th when the convention is finally over.
So let's see. Between now and our next show, we have the convention. So
everybody
needs to go and register so that you know you're registered. And then, yeah.
And I was going to mention also that the TSG Crew Lounge, that's the thing where we do a panel discussion, is going to be on the 20th. That's the day after the Amtrak build that I was just talking about, the P42 with the marker lights. It's the day after that comes out, and that's going to be at 4:00. So it's this coming this coming Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. I just have my calendar here. That's what I'm looking at. And we're going to be talking more about the convention. So I'm sure that there's some stuff that I failed to mention because there's really a lot to know about the convention. But the most important thing to know about it is go sign up for it because it'll definitely be worth it. And if you're looking for inspiration, it'll be a great place to find it. So, yeah. I'm being told from the Peanut Gallery that there's a lot of info on the website as well. So, and I think she was putting it up. Did you post that again? Cool. All right, then. So I guess we'll go then. Thanks, Michelle, for covering. Thanks, Walker, for coming. It was really good to talk to you. You
guys as well.
Yeah. You're welcome to call. Yeah, you're welcome to call anytime. So you're welcome.
Cool. This show's the third Wednesday of the month.
Third Wednesday of the month?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Open door for friends, man. So anytime you want to hit it, man. Cool. All right. We're out. I'll talk to you guys in a second after the credits go, okay?
Okay. Yeah, hang out. Don't hang up, Walker.
Okay. Hang out for a minute and I'll be back then. Thanks, guys.